The video containing the story of Pluto has been included in this to give an example of narrative content which has one small story uh, which can very easily be put in the full dome sky format, where we can use, if we have some kind of a planetarium dome software, we can put visuals, like we go to some place just outside the solar system, view the solar system perhaps, and from there we can capture visuals, orbit, planets, and different ways in which this can be combined along with certain other visuals which are related to our narrative content. So here the narrative content being how the planet Pluto got redefined as a dwarf planet, and what exactly was the rationalization in the definition of a planet or a dwarf planet. What you are going to be viewing now are recordings from computer monitor taken at the planetarium. So these are nowhere near the original. You will be losing the viewing the resolution both in the video as well as the sound. But they are used here just to give an idea about matching content to narration
The next major
for the
happening
planetarium.
in the unfolding of the story was with the discovery of Pluto in 1930 by careful observations of Clyde Tombaugh. When discovered, it was thought to be as massive as the Earth and was termed the ninth planet of the solar system. In 1978, its moon Chiron was detected, and it was then possible to make an estimate of its mass. No, definitely not as massive as the Earth. In fact, Pluto is even smaller than our own moon. Many small bodies have since been found in the outer regions of the solar system, which seemed almost as massive as Pluto. A question mark then hung over Pluto. Should it ever have been called a planet? And then came the discovery of an object in 2003, UB 313, or Eris as it has now been named. This was more massive than Pluto. The question mark hanging over Pluto became larger and larger, and even more bothersome. Do we call Pluto a planet? If so, what about UB 313? What exactly is meant by the word planet? Very recently, the International Astronomical Union came up with a physical definition of the word planet, which left poor Pluto out in the cold. The new physical definition calls any object a planet that is in orbit around the parent star, is sufficiently massive that its inward gravitational pull makes the object spherical, and is also sufficiently massive that it clears its own neighborhood of matter. That is, the planet is the monarch of all it surveys, in its own backyard. A planet has to be the dominant body in its neighborhood. This definition then leaves us with 8 classical planets: Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. We have a new class of objects defined as dwarf planets. Pluto is one of them. These dwarf planets orbit the Sun and are massive enough to be round, but they are not necessarily dominant objects in their neighborhood. We then have other small solar system bodies like the asteroids and comets, also part of the solar system. This then is the one big happy family of our solar system.
Now there is a small content about the moon, This wasn't from the Chandrayaan program, but from the program on the solar system, in which a small segment on the moon was included. And once again, a lot of it was used from the planetarium dome sky content. So visuals related to the moon, for instance, were simply from the software within the system. But given any planetarium software which allows you zoomed in views of solar system objects, content of this kind can be created. And this follows on to from traveling to the moon to beyond, certain issues involved in it. So once again here orbits and the dome software has been used, which again any planetarium software can create visuals of this kind.
20th July 1969.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Man had set foot on our nearest neighbor, Moon. It was a 3-day voyage to the Moon, at the end of which material for decades of study was collected. The Moon was previously believed to be devoid of water, but the Clementine and Lunar Prospector missions indicated the presence of frozen water beneath the lunar poles. The final mission of the Lunar Prospector was to collide with the Moon and pierce the surface to reveal the frozen water beneath. But the expected impact signatures were not observed from the Earth. This was not to say that subsurface frozen water is necessarily absent on the lunar poles. The search is usually long and arduous. There was the recently concluded SMART mission that also impacted on the lunar surface to give us information of the lunar subsurface regions. There is the Russian Lunar Globe Orbiter mission that has ambitious plans of firing several probes from orbit towards diverse regions on the lunar surface. There is the Indian Odyssey to the Moon, Chandrayaan-1, also an orbiter mission that plans for detailed high-resolution mineralogical mapping of the lunar surface. Traveling to the planets is much more difficult